Would everyone please bow your heads and close your eyes? Dear God, at this time, we come before you, not only to invoke your presence into these confirmations and affirmations, but also we invoke your continued power into our city of Annapolis. We come before you knowing that we cannot address our city's issues alone. We need your guidance and your strength as we move forward on behalf of all of our residents, businesses, and visitors. Dear God, we recognize that first and foremost, our public safety is paramount, and that a positive quality of life is of equal importance and value. And as these obligations relate to all of our community's residents, businesses, and visitors, our public safety and quality of life are best assured when our residents are 1, healthy, 2, informed and or in other words, educated, 3, meaningfully engaged in the enhancement of our professional and volunteer workforce, 4, good money managers of their finances, 5, residing in safe and affordable housing communities, 6, mobile, in other words, easily able to access adequate and affordable transportation when needed, 7, pursuing social, community, entertainment, the arts, historical, and recreation activities, 8, as well as possibly choosing to enlighten themselves spiritually. And dear God, that our mayor, that all 8 of our city council members, that all of our city staff, that everyone here in our Annapolis and Anne Arundel County communities that surround us, and particularly today, that our Fire Chief Douglas M. Romali and his staff, that our Police Chief Edward C. Jackson and his staff, that our Director of the Office of Emergency Kevin J. Simmons and his staff, and that I, as our city's Public Safety Chair and humble servant, working alongside these stellar public safety team members, that we will all work together diligently, efficiently, and strategically toward making our city of Annapolis the best in the nation, the best that it can be. And that we all recognize that we need everyone, yes, everyone in this city, no one is exempt. We need everyone to work really hard to make this happen. And we offer up this prayer to you for guidance. And dear God, always help our words be true, help our actions be honest, help our lives to reflect your holiness and to shine your light for all to see. Help us to live with integrity. We thank you, God, for the opportunities to use the gifts that you have given us for your service. Help us to do so in obedience, expecting nothing more than your well done as reward. And dear God, please give us the strength to go against the flow of this world. Help us to resist what is wrong in your eyes and to act in ways that please you. And dear God, please continue to remind us that we as a city are totally and unequivocally committed to working as one Annapolis, an Annapolis that values everyone. For the glory of your holy and righteous name, my soul says amen, amen, and amen.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Here.
Alderman Tierney?
Here.
Alderman Payon?
Here.
Alderman Pendel Charles?
Here.
Alderman Finlayson? Alderman Rodriguez? Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present. And here.
Ms. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended to refer O-27-19, critical area overlay, and R-36-19, critical area overlay fees, to the Environmental Matters Committee.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I refer O-27-19 to critical area overlay and R-36-19 to critical overlay fees to the Environmental Matters Committee. Ms. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with comments by the general public.
One person.
Okay. We have one person signed up to speak. Jeffrey Red, please come forward. State your name and address. Sorry.
Jeffrey Red, 5949 Western Run Drive, Baltimore, Maryland, 21219. To Mayor Buckley, the City Council, and to all those under the sound of my voice, good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Red. I was born and raised in Baltimore, in the great city of Baltimore, Maryland. I joined the Baltimore Police Department in 1987. Fresh out of the academy, I was assigned to the Northeastern District. During those days, new officers as myself had the privilege to have senior officers of the district to further teach and guide you along the way. For me, I was truly blessed because I had many of them who are actually in this chambers today. In particular, one named Edward C. Jackson. Today, you will probably hear many stating how much of a good person he is, how educated he is, and even how much of a good leader he is. And I concur with it all. I can attest to his character because I have watched it. I can attest to his leadership because I have followed it. I can attest to his love of people because not only did I see it, his works, but I hear it in his heart as he talks about it. I can go on and on about Chief Jackson, not because he's a friend, great leader, or brother, but because I know his spirit. The chief knows in order for him to effective upon taking on any part of any great important undertaking, he must first invoke in the aid of deity. His prayers, your prayers, our prayers have no choice but to succeed. To the wonderful citizens of Annapolis, I congratulate you on such a great find. To my brothers and sisters in the Annapolis Police Department, prepare to further learn and succeed. And I'm very excited for you and your new leadership. And to the Mayor and City Council of Annapolis, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak? Seeing the motion in the chamber, I declare... Oh, sorry. How you doing, sir?
Pardon me, I thought you had to be on the agenda.
No.
The Honorable Mayor, council members, all those in attendance, good afternoon. My name is Robert Gibson, 7899 Galloping Circle. I reside in Windsor Mill, Maryland. And I am the good friend, almost brother, of Edward C. Jackson. We met shortly after my graduation from the Police Academy in 1986. I could go on, but the long and short of it is he became my best friend, my best man, the godfather of my children. And I could tell you personally, as a good friend, how wonderful of a person he is. I could tell you as someone who sat under his leadership, yes, he did become my commander at one time, that his effectiveness as a leader is stellar. Annapolis is really gaining a gem. And I said it to him in the hallway, Baltimore had lost out. They don't realize what they lost. Annapolis, you should be very, very excited. Not only are you getting a great individual, you're getting a very educated, very smart, ethics of the most high individual as your police chief. I thank you for your time, and I'll announce for everybody in this room that I love that man and you're getting a good person. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, great members that you are, and great citizens of Annapolis. I stand before you. My name is Richard Height, 1718 Wayburn Road, Baltimore County, Maryland. I am the undersheriff of the Baltimore County Sheriff Department. I stand here because a good friend happened to take a position Now, today is my birthday, Mr. Mayor, and I don't give up my birthday for just anymore. I was due to go take a trip out of town, and I said I'm going to change my plans because it's important to stand here before I ever see Jackson. I'm a firm believer that leaders don't develop followers, leaders develop leaders. I'm a good example of that. I was able to matriculate through the department, retired as a lieutenant colonel, took over as chief of Indianapolis Police Department, and when I heard about this position, Ed and I talked about it, and I said, this would be a good fit for you. Because I spent 7 years right down the street. I worked at the State House under Governor Schaefer. And they're friends of mine, Pete Franz and others who worked in cabinet position would tell you that it's important to develop leaders for the future. And I think Ed has that ability to do that. The young men and women who have fallen in his purview will learn from him in a time when policing is taking a real hit in America. It's important to have a police officer and a chief. He's a cop's, but he's a people person. You've already probably seen that. I think you've not made a mistake. You did due diligence in picking the right person. And we stand behind him and you and look forward to his leadership. Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to come forward? Seeing no motion in the chamber, I declare the comments by the general public closed. Thank you for your comments. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda are the mayor's confirmations of the Annapolis Public Safety Team, beginning with ID 57419, the confirmation of Department Director, Fire Chief Candidate Douglas M. Romali.
City Manager Sutherland and Chief Romali, please come forward. Is there a motion to confirm Douglas M. Romali as Fire Chief?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, so we can start the discussion now.
Let him go.
Call the question.
Would you like to say something?
Thank you. I'm Teresa Sutherland, and with me is Deputy Chief Doug Romali. So we are seeking your confirmation of the appointment of Chief Romali to the Fire Chief position. The city charter requires the fire chief to be appointed based on the chief's knowledge and experience in fire prevention and suppression, in emergency services, in public safety and administration, at least 3 years of which shall have been in an executive or supervisory capacity. We are seeking your confirmation. Chief Romali has a Master of Science in Management from Johns Hopkins University. Is that a Master of Fire Science? Master, okay. And a Bachelor of Science in Fire Science from the University of Maryland. He's worked his entire career for the city. He's born and raised in Annapolis. He moved up the ranks from a firefighter medic in 1986 to the deputy chief in 2007. And as the deputy chief, he plans, directs, and administers all programs of the fire department. I trust you will agree that Chief Romali's credentials, education, training, and experience make him well qualified to serve as the police chief, and we ask for your favorable consideration. Fire chief. I'm sorry. He did go to the police academy.
Please be fine.
Sorry.
Would you like to make some comments before we vote?
This might be a mistake. Yeah, if you could just indulge me for a couple minutes, because I think this is important. I thank the city manager and yourself for moving this forward and nominating me for your fire chief, and I do appreciate that. But most people that know me will tell you that they don't know how to read me. They can't read me really when we have a conversation. They know when I'm passionate about something, but they don't know if I'm happy. They don't know if I'm sad. My wife will tell you we don't talk about certain things, and it drives her crazy too. So here it goes, because I'm going to let you know how I actually feel. I was born and raised here in the city of Annapolis. I feel very honored to be able to sit here in front of you and be nominated as fire chief. Being able to attend the local schools and growing up here was great for me. I love this city, and going to the schools around here helped me understand the community. But as we move forward, I have a long history in the Annapolis Fire Department also. My grandfather was a volunteer at the Rescue Hose Company here on West Street in the 50s, the 60s, and early 70s. He then moved on to become the volunteer deputy chief under our first fire chief, Charles Steele. Look, I'm being toned out already.
That was your wife.
Yeah, that was my wife, right? There's no doubt. So my father was a lieutenant here for about 15 years before he moved on to be a fire chief in North Carolina and the county fire marshal there. And actually my stepfather served time as a lieutenant in the Indianapolis Fire Department. But I've been doing this for about 36 years in public safety. I started out as a volunteer and was lucky enough to be hired basically out of high school and moved through the ranks of this department. So that allowed me the opportunity to really understand the fire service without a doubt. But I think that me not showing emotion probably is that police side of me, because I was able to do that also, and so, I taught a lot about that. But as we moved forward, my wife didn't necessarily know what she signed up for. She knew that I was very passionate about public safety. We dated for about 4 years before we were married, and we've been married for 36. It feels like 36, 26 years. So, I will pay for that one. So 30 years of the 36 I've been in public safety, she's known about it. She told me she knew what she signed up for, but I don't exactly know that was true. We planned to get married. During that time period, we'd set a wedding date. I happened to get transferred at the time within the department. It was a transfer that I put in for, and it was a competitive position that I put in for, but I was assigned to the Anne Arundel County Police Academy at the time. So one Friday night, I got out of Police Academy after doing the Police Academy stuff all day, got dressed, went to my rehearsal dinner, got married on a Saturday, and Monday morning I was back in the Police Academy. We were lucky enough to raise 3 boys here in the city of Annapolis. I'm very proud of them. 2 of them are in college currently. 2 of them are here. 1 of them's in North Carolina working. But it is very interesting to me for the people that don't know me and they see me out on the street. They'll know, you're Brian's dad, you're Douglas's dad, you're Kyle's dad. So that's very important to me to know the community. They will also tell you that there were several times when that pager went off. We had family plans, personal plans, just plans in general that I left to go out on an emergency scene to investigate a fire or actually check on a suspicious package, and I couldn't do it without them, so I needed them to know that. Love you very much. But to go on farther with that, the support I've received since this nomination has been overwhelming to me. The community itself, the phone calls I get. I was working out at the rec center at 6 o'clock this morning, people coming up to me and congratulating me on that. So that really makes me feel good. The city manager told me the other day, Doug, it's okay to smile. So, yeah, I will smile. As we continue to move on, the men and women of the Annapolis Fire Department, who are many of them are in this out here today. Some of them are retirees, some of them are working. They're what makes my job easy. They continue to work daily to enhance public safety in the city of Annapolis. Obviously, I've done something throughout my career to earn their respect, to work alongside of them. And I am very proud to be nominated as their fire chief, so I thank them for being here also. As a community member, it was very important for me about public safety, but I'll just leave you with this, that when I went to high school, there's a good friend of mine, his name's Asbury Parker, works for Public Works, and his name's been in front of you several times because I've been here when they've talked about what he's done in Public Works and for the community, but him and I went to school together. We were at Annapolis High School, and we'd leave high school and go to South River Tech, where we were going to learn a trade. Little tidbit: I used to do auto body work and paint tractor trailers on Hudson Street, but that's another story. But one day in class, we were sitting around. Now maybe I upset the instructor, I'm not sure, but however it was, that instructor turned to me and asked me, said, "Mr. Romali, you want to be a firefighter all your life?" And the answer then is the same as it is today. It's the best job in the world, and I would not do anything without it. What I was very fortunate is I came through the ranks to have several supervisors that gave me a lot of responsibility. 2 of them stand out. Some of the supervisors taught me a lot and taught me what not to do, so I'm happy for that too, but 2 of them really stand out. And one of them is the late Fire Chief Jerome W. Smith. He was known as a firefighter's fire chief. He gave me a lot of responsibility. He asked me to be his deputy chief in 2007. I took that responsibility and wore it well and continued to move forward. After he retired, the fire chief's job was open. I went down to the mayor's office and we were discussing the job itself, and they asked me, said, well, what do you know about David Stokes? I said, well, David Stokes will probably tell you that he's known me longer than I've known him. I said, he is an excellent fire chief. He works for Anne Arundel County, and he'd do an excellent job working for me. Well, that didn't work out too well. But in hindsight, they say everything works for a reason. And I am actually glad that he made fire chief at the time. He asked me to stay on as his deputy chief. We had a great department who he has set the bar even higher and had us move forward. And I think that between him and Chief Smith, they really pushed me to be a better leader, a better mentor, and a better fire chief. So I thank him for all his leadership and what he's done for the department, and I hope to just continue to move it forward. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We want to thank you all for giving us Annapolis, the City of Annapolis, a first-class fire department. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favour of confirming Douglas M. Romali as Fire Chief for the City of Annapolis, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Let's go swear you in. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is ID 57319, confirmation and swearing in of Department Director, Police Chief Candidate Edward C. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson.
Can she
This is
see
the
us?
first. Can you see us?
Oh, gosh. Oh, does she know?
There you go. Alderwoman, you can talk.
Oh, she picked up her phone.
Looking. I don't know whether they can hear me or not.
We can hear you.
She's got feedback on her.
Oh, okay.
So maybe you could call her. Sheila, we were trying something here to see if we can vote remotely. It's the thing that we set up when Fred was getting his operation and Sheila was supposed to be getting her operation. So maybe I'll let you clarify that. Okay. So, by the way, I feel really safe because there's so many first responders out there. Thank you. Teresa, would you like to give some background on how we got here, please?
Yes. I will. So when we had our police chief vacancy, we wanted to get the community's input on the qualifications they were seeking in the next police chief. And so we held 4 community forums, which were well attended with diversity of people who showed up that came with many different perspectives. We took the input from the community forums, which helped us define the qualifications that we put in the advertisement for the police chief vacancy, as well as helped the interview panel formulate the questions that the panel was going to ask. We advertised the positions. We had 60 applicants for police chief. We narrowed that down to 13 or 14, I don't remember the exact number, of those that we thought were most highly qualified. We had an interview panel of 7 people. It was me, Deputy Chief Kevin Simmons, Reverend Stephen Tillett, Lon Powell from the parole community, Howard County Police Chief Lisa Myers, Liz Alex from Casa de Maryland, and Chuck Howard, who works for the Attorney General's office in Baltimore and was a former NCIS police chief. The panel was diverse in experience, which was very important as we evaluated the candidates to hear the different perspectives. We narrowed the 14 candidates down to 6 and did second interviews, and then we narrowed that down to 2 for the mayor's consideration. The mayor, and I'd like to thank the interview panel for the long hours that they put in helping us narrow the candidates down for consideration. The mayor then interviewed both of the candidates while the Anne Arundel County Police Department did an extensive background check that took several weeks to complete, so I'd like to thank County Chief Tim Altamari for their assistance. And based on the mayor's interview, he selected Edward Jackson as the nominee. We, this past week on Monday night, held a community forum to introduce the candidate. All 3 of the candidates on our public safety team at a well-attended community forum that had more than 100 people. I don't think we have an exact count, but we were confident that it was more than 100 people. And that was well received. And so now we sit before you asking for your consideration. Article 6, Section 8 of the Charter requires the police chief to be appointed based on the chief's knowledge and experience in the field of law enforcement and public safety administration, of which at least 12 years shall have been with a law enforcement agency, and at least 2 years of which shall have been in an executive or supervisory capacity. The police chief shall also have a degree in law enforcement and public safety administration. Mr. Jackson is a PhD candidate at Capella University, where he is completing his dissertation on the impact of absentee fathers in the lives of children as it relates to crime, delinquency, and antisocial behavior. He has a Master of Science in Applied Behavioral Sciences with a concentration in community development from Johns Hopkins University, and he has a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice with a concentration in sociology from Coppin State University. Mr. Jackson began his career as a police officer in Baltimore City in 1983, moving up the ranks to colonel at the time of his retirement in 2004. He has been a program director and assistant professor in criminal justice program at the Baltimore City Community College, and most recently he served as the Chief Office of the Inspector General for Baltimore City, providing agency-wide oversight of Baltimore Police Department's administrative and operational practices. I trust you will agree that Mr. Jackson's credentials, education, training, and education make him well qualified to serve as police chief, and we seek your favorable confirmation.
Thank you. Rob, you'd like Mr. Jackson to say some stuff? If you could just give us Alderman Savage was interested. He was very impressed with your words when we were at the Pipmore Rec Centre. If you could just tell us a little bit. Yourself would be great.
I was impressed with some of the things I heard at the forum, but I think it would be benefit for the entire public to hear whoever's tuning in or may tune in at a later date in terms of your approach to policing, your support for, it sounds like, your views on transparency and the importance of that kind of thing.
Yes, and I believe if I remember my remarks correctly, one of the things that has stuck with me my entire career, I'm a student of Sir Robert Peel, the London Metropolitan Police Act of 1829. He petitioned Parliament to create a police force, a government police force, and he had 9 principles. And I think principle among all of the 9 principles was, he said something in 1829, and he said that the police are the community and the community are the police. And so I've always dreamed of leading a department whereby that philosophy, that point is reinforced. There's never been a successful police department or a police chief anywhere in history, I would argue that point with anybody in America, if they didn't have the support and full cooperation of the community. We can't do our jobs effectively if we don't have the public trust. And so I want to lead a department whereby we are guardians of the community, not warriors against it. I want to lead a department where the Constitution means something. We have 4 sources of American law. We have the United States Constitution, we have law enacted by our legislature, we have judge-made law, that's appellate court decisions, whether state appellate court, the federal courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then we have administrative regulations. The United States Constitution is the highest form of law. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that fact when we go into our community. Even bad people have rights. That's at the core of our democracy. And so the other night, I just wanted to let the citizens of Annapolis, every Annapolitan, visitor, anybody who comes through this town, I would assure Mayor Buckley that a police department led by Ed Jackson is going to be a constitutional-based policing. We get our authority primarily from the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. The Constitution of the Fourth Amendment talks about the right of the people to be secure in their houses, papers, and effects shall not be infringed. No warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause. It also talks about the warrant has to be sworn to by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the places to be searched and or the items to be seized. So whether we have probable cause to search or to seize, we're going to do it in compliance with the Constitution. Every citizen has rights. I don't care where you come from. Like Immanuel Kant said, the German philosopher said, if an act is to have a moral worth, reason and reason alone must move the will. And I guess that's an abstract way of saying you can do good things for the wrong reason. So if your heart's not pure and you don't come in the spirit of service to humanity, then you're not doing it for the right reason. And I want the men and women of the Annapolis Police Department to understand that when they put that badge on, they hold a public trust. And we're not warriors against the people. Without the community, there would be no need for us. And so that's pretty much, I'm kind of paraphrasing what I articulated the other night. But thank you for the opportunity to restate that today.
And I'm just gonna get a first and a second, and then I'll open it up because some of the councillors that didn't get a chance to talk to you one-on-one, I'm sure, would like to ask you a few questions. Is that okay? So. Is there a motion to confirm Ed Jackson as the police chief of Annapolis?
So moved.
Second. Okay, so Alderman Gay had his hand up first for a question.
Yeah.
Or a statement?
I have like 10 quick questions. These are questions that we've probably talked about previously or you've talked with other council members with previously. The first question, would you support an independent citizens review board? Unlike the prior Citizens Review Board, this board must have air, authority, independence, and resources, and not hand-select by the Chief of Police. Would you agree?
I would agree. The only thing that I would state is that there has to be education. But I think that we should be held accountable. You know, we are answerable to the citizens. We're answerable to the mayor. We're answerable to the city manager. We're answerable to this body, the city council, and surely the residents. So the answer is yes. I would just like to see the citizens, whoever is chosen, and not necessarily by me, understand what police have to face so they can make an informed decision, and in their deliberations make a fair decision for our officers as well as for the community. But yes, sir, absolutely.
Perfect. So you mentioned warrants, and you know, a warrant is a right to search or seize any property. In recent weeks, and as recently as last month, there have been at least 2 interactions where Annapolis City police officers have acted on behalf of a warrant that has not been presented to the citizen that they have been interacting with. Would you agree that that is not appropriate? If a warrant has been signed by a judge, it should be turned over to the resident or the citizen of the home upon like the arrival?
Absolutely. If it's a search warrant, then a copy of the warrant upon executing the warrant, duly signed by an authorized judge, a copy of whatever was taken from the home constitutionally should be left with the citizens. They should have an inventory after the warrant has been executed. They should leave something at the house, a copy of the warrant. It doesn't have to be the original warrant, but a facsimile copy of it stating exactly what was seized.
So you're, with it being a criminal justice professor, you're familiar with the elephant in the matchbox
yes, sir.
analogy. So again, just in line with the same question of a warrant, if a warrant is specific for one area, they must search only that area, or an area within that object may be able to fit in or hidden in.
Yes, let me give you a quick analogy.
Absolutely.
If I have a warrant and I'll go and fill out an affidavit is a sworn statement in support of a search and seizure warrant, and I articulate in that affidavit, that sworn statement, that I'm going to seize a 65-inch screen TV. I say nothing about anything else. I can only look in the area. The scope of the warrant only allows me to search an area where a 65-inch screen TV could be housed. So if I look into a little jewelry box and I find a vial of cocaine, then I've violated the warrant because a 65-inch screen TV can't fit into a box, and that would be an illegal seizure. So a warrant does, and that's what I meant when I said the Fourth Amendment, the particularity clause. You particularly describe the places to be searched and or the items to be seized, and that's in the United States Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, and the Bill of Rights.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, sir.
Would you commit to establishing an African American liaison for the City of Annapolis Police Department, which we currently do not have, although more than half of our arrests and interactions are with African American communities?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that you have to do, whether it be the African American community in particular, because the elephant in the room, and I think that we have to have a healthy debate about this in this country, that African Americans are overrepresented disproportionately in the criminal justice system in America. African American males, particularly between the ages of 15 and 34, are more likely to be targeted than any other group. Latinos a close second. So we have to get out into the communities, educate the public. You know, criminality is criminality. I don't care who commits it, and we have laws. We're a rule of law. But we want our enforcement strategies to be fair and firm and across the board. We don't want people to be targeted. I want my officers to be able to understand RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion versus probable cause. Sometimes reasonable articulable suspicion becomes probable cause very fast. Sometimes you never establish probable cause and a stop. And so if you don't establish probable cause, you take the information down, advise the citizen why you stopped them, and then you let them go. But we shouldn't be holding people and charging them with crimes and ruining their lives and their jobs if we only have reasonable articulable suspicion.
Awesome. Thank you for that one. Agree or disagree that the current standard of 45 minutes of walk time per 8-hour shift does not address the concerns of community policing?
It doesn't. Community policing is a philosophy. If I can equate it to the 8 parts of speech. In the English language, you have 8 parts of speech, and I like to equate it with 2 of them. That's a noun and a verb. A noun, of course, is a person, place, thing, or idea, and a verb is an action word. So the word, when you talk about community policing, you're talking about a philosophy. We're talking about an idea. That's the noun part of it. We want the men and women, regardless of where you work at in the organization, in the police department, we want you to adopt a philosophy that we're there to help and partner with the community. We're there to help solve problems. A homicide detective, I think Stan Bradford is here today. He said something that struck me when we were talking about cold cases. Go back to the family occasionally. Let them know that we're still interested in their loved one and solving the crime. It doesn't take much time out of your day to say, look, ma'am, look, sir, I feel sorry for your loss. We haven't forgotten your loved one. We've exhausted all investigative leads at this point, but the minute we find anything else, we'll be sure to let you know. That's the philosophy of community policing. Awesome. And of course, how we engage the public, we have to be there, they have to be visible, and we want our police officers, we want children to be able to run up to our police officers and not fear them. Know that they're an authority figure, but not fear them.
Yeah, creating that relationship. Would you agree that a significant amount of crime in the city of Annapolis are directly related to the economic struggles in some of our most vulnerable communities?
Absolutely. Crime is a result or a manifestation of social problems. I think the narrative many times is often framed the wrong way. In other words, we're never going to achieve social control, total social control, when we have, cops. You can blame cops for a lot of things, or police officers for a lot of things, but what police officers don't control, they don't control poverty, they don't control drug addiction, alcoholism, domestic violence. They don't control poor reading skills or the inability to mainstream themselves and get jobs. And what happens, crime is a manifestation of social problems. Social problems don't emanate from crime. Crime emanates from social problems. So I would argue any community in America, when you have an underserved community, when you have a lack of resources, economic or otherwise, when you don't have access to capital and all those other things, you're going to have crime. When you have broken families, when you have people who are suffering from mental illness and the disease of addiction, you're going to have crime. Yeah. You can't plant apple seeds and expect oranges to grow. So you can't expect peace and prosperity to emerge in the community when we have all those other social problems. So the modern police executive, the modern police chief, and the men and women who serve under him has to understand the sociology of what they walk into. The reason why we have this disconnect between police and the community, because we've allowed people who don't mean the community good to adopt a us against them warrior mentality. And what that does, that just contains all of those social problems in one geographic area. And then eventually, like in the riots in 2015 in Baltimore City involving Mr. Freddie Gray, what happens is that it's a powder keg, and it happened over and over again in American history, numerous times in the 20th century. Eventually, it's a powder keg, and we all suffer. Martin Luther King said we got to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or perish together as fools.
Awesome. Last quick questions. If asked by an immediate supervisor to carry out a task that you know would affect the outcome of your community policing priorities, would you feel free to speak out?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Under your leadership, would the police department invest in a police officer or manager who has experience dealing with mental health patients?
Yes, I think we have a role in that. I think that our officers should know the difference. But I want the men and women who are here today in Annapolis to understand I fully support them. It's a tough job. I think that many times police officers are made the scapegoat because they haven't received the proper training. I just want to make that a part of the record. We expect them to go out and do things without any training, without any background. And many of these men and women who put the badge and gun on are very young. They're still learning how to become men and women themselves. They're still developing as human beings. And we unfairly pin a badge on them and put a gun on them without the proper training. So what I like to do is as the police chief is re-emphasize training. You can't hold a person accountable fairly if you don't provide them the necessary tools to be effective.
Absolutely. Would you commit to learning of and handling the racial issues that have recently troubled our police department?
Yes.
In particular, internally?
Yes, I'm not shy about that.
Awesome.
Absolutely, sir.
And last question. Would you commit to working against the efforts of ICE and federal agents who hope to detain immigrants within our city?
The city of Annapolis pays my salary. I work for you. I don't work for ICE.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I only put it in my drink. I only put ice in my drink.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Madam City Manager, for this presentation. And as you spoke to the resume, I just want to reiterate that with Mr. Jackson, with your 10 years on foot patrol, 11, I might have the numbers wrong, but 11 plus years on organizational, operational skills, and 13 years as an educator, you've demonstrated both the field and the administrative aspects of policing and your incredible thirst for knowledge. And I commend that. And from my 8 years of observing, this is different than any predecessor in that their focus, unfortunately, was perhaps reactionary, defending statistics as if one murder didn't matter. So with that and your knowledge, how do you intend on implementing this knowledge? What will be your tool to educate the public, and specifically to the younger generation in the vulnerable communities?
Yes, ma'am. I think another mistake, and I know I'm talking about mistakes amongst the executive corps, but you can't operate in the ivory tower. And Annapolis, what's so attractive about the Annapolis PD, it's small enough to get to know the members there. And you have to walk around, you have to manage by walking around. You know, we have a chain of command, I understand that, but I want to make it perfectly clear to the men and women who are here today and the ones that I'll meet with if I'm confirmed by this body today, is that I intend to come to roll calls. If it's a topic that I believe that I can impart everything that I've learned, that's why you hired me. I'm going to go to roll call and make sure they understand what's expected of them. I'm real big on understanding the world. When I joined in 1983, we didn't have to worry about terrorism. We didn't have to worry about a whole lot of the issues that we have to do today. My problem with law enforcement is that we haven't kept pace with the changing world. So the new police chief has to be visible. He has to hold his people accountable, but be accountable fairly. I have to let them know what I expect, and I have to, as my mother used to say, use my words to clearly articulate what I expect of them. Absence of that, then it's on me when they don't understand what the mission is. So to answer your question, yes, ma'am, I plan on still being a professor. I bring to Annapolis my skills as a professor, my skills as an inspector general. I know about fraud, waste, and abuse. I know about internal controls. I know about how to measure and manage. So I plan on bringing that all. You're getting an inspector general, a police officer, and a police official all in one ball. So Annapolis is getting a deal if you all confirm that.
else like to say anything? Alderman Savage?
And thank you very much for your willingness to submit an application and to serve as our chief.
Yes, sir.
And I do have one just follow-up question, again, coming out of some of the comments you made
Yes,
earlier
sir.
this week. So how would you go about in building more trust between the community and the police department and the officers, and what role do you see transparency playing in that?
One of the things I like to say to the community, and I talked about this week, there's 6 institutions of social control in America, 6 primary ones, there's others. And what I would say to the community day one, that the most important, the first 3 that are paramount in order for a community to prosper, the institution of social control as it relates to family, reinforced by our education, K through 12 and beyond, our educational institutions, and then our faith-based institutions. Those institutions should influence an individual to want to comply with the dominant values of society. I'm putting on my sociology hat. If we want them to comply with the dominant values of society, then they need to be strengthened. If our faith-based institutions, our institution of family, and our schools are operating poorly, then guess what? The other 3 institutions of social control are going to be overarching, and that's what we don't want, and that's too much police, courts, and corrections. So I would tell them we want family to be strengthened, reinforced by our schools and our faith-based institutions, so that the other 3, police, courts, and corrections, doesn't have to be here. It's our job to be the guardians, not the warriors.
Thank you, Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Jackson, first of all, I'd like to thank you for applying for this position.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
and for
you.
going through the process. As a retired prosecutor in Baltimore City from 1983 to 2004, I can certainly understand your qualifications, what you have done and accomplished in that city, that great city where I was even born, and went to college as well as law school and was there for that 20 and a half years. So thank you so very much, and for allowing our public here and those who are watching and those who are listening to be able to get a great sense of what you're about, what you bring to our city, and therefore we will know why you will be confirmed today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We're going to try something for the first time. We're going to see if Sheila can be patched in, not on audio, but on get her to raise her hand. Do you think we could do that, Mitchell, or not?
Blink once for yes, twice.
Oh, she's waving.
Okay. Okay. So, do you want to call her and ask her to raise her hand when I say all those in favour? No? No? Oh, she can't? I thought we could. No. Oh, I thought didn't we do that resolution before? Yeah. Not for this time. It was for, okay, no worries. We'll forget about that. Okay. Everyone ready? All those in favour of confirming Edward C. Jackson as the police chief for the city of Annapolis, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations.
And support the Constitution and laws thereof. And that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment. Diligently and faithfully. Without partiality or prejudice.
execute the office of Police Chief
execute the office of Police Chief
according to the Constitution and laws of this state
according to the Constitution and laws of this state
and the Charter and Code of the City of Annapolis.
and the Charter and Code of the City of Annapolis.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd also like to take this moment to thank Acting Police Chief Paul Harriman for the fantastic job that he has done in Lincoln. And the same goes for Chief Stokes. If everyone can stand up for him, let's hear it for him. And I'd also like to thank Scott Baker for his service and for all that he did for the city, his term as police chief. I want to thank him too. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Ms. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is ID 57519, the confirmation and swearing in of Department Director, Office of Emergency Management Department, candidate Kevin J. Simmons.
Teresa.
Thank you. With me today is Kevin J. Simmons. Article 6, Section 13 of the Charter requires the Director of the Office of Emergency Management to be appointed based on the Director's knowledge and experience, including a bachelor's degree and at least 5 years' experience in emergency management, public safety, public health, or public administration. Pursuant to these Charter requirements, we are seeking your confirmation of Kevin J. Simmons for Director of the Office of Emergency Management. Mr. Simmons has more than 30 years' experience in public safety and emergency management. He possesses a Master of Art in Legal Studies from the University of Baltimore and a Bachelor of Science in Behavioral Sciences from the University of Maryland. He has been the Deputy Fire Chief and the Director of the Office of Emergency Management Division in the Annapolis Fire Department since 2010, following a 27-year career with the Howard County Fire Department, Department of Fire and Rescue. I trust you will agree that Mr. Simmons' credentials, education, training, and experience make him well qualified to serve as the Director of the Office of Emergency Management, and we are seeking your favorable confirmation.
Thank you, Chief.
Good afternoon, Council. Good to see all your smiling faces. I, too, like Chief O'Malley, am a disciple of David Stokes. David Stokes brought me here. And I knew that emergency management was going to be part of my duties, but I didn't realize how the depth that I would be into emergency management. When Chief Stokes brought me here, he said, hey, look, I want you to do an audit on this place, and I want you to get it together. And I went down to the basement of the police department, and there was a bunch of boxes there. And we grew those boxes into what you see now. And we grew an emergency management that's pretty cutting edge. I got a call the other day from the Howard County CAO. Said, hey, look, we want to take a look at your operation, and we may want to duplicate it in Howard County. I got a call from Baltimore County as well, thinking of the same thing. So we've been through hurricanes together. We've been through storms together. We've been to a little bit of everything. And you guys are used to getting my emails in the middle of the night, as you are calling me in the middle of the night. My day starts at 6 o'clock and usually ends at 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock that night. It's a lot of commitment that goes to that job. So I've had 9 years of on-the-job training, and you guys have seen how I work, and you can evaluate that from what I've done and the way I've performed. I was lucky enough to be in the police chief's process. And I looked at the police chief process a little differently probably than anybody else in the selection team, because I was looking for a person who would complement me going forward in public safety. And out of the 60-some people that we interviewed, I will tell you that Ed Jackson was the one. We were at the community forum the other night, and somebody walked up and said, "Another chief from Baltimore City?" And I said, no. We have another person who is the best candidate, had the most depth in management, community policing, and operations. And that's what we got. He just happens to be from Baltimore. And rounding out this team is Doug Romali. He's the perfect choice of the team. And we had, when they nominated us, we were all in here. Everybody was taking pictures, the paparazzi. We went through all of this stuff, and they took us back to the mayor's conference room, and we got interviewed. So once the interview was done, it was just the three of us there. And just like clockwork, we started talking. We started talking about the future of public safety in the city of Annapolis. And right then and there, we came in as three individuals, and we walked out as a team. And I think you got a good deal going forward with the three of us. You do. So I'll entertain any questions you may have, except to, what are you going to wear? What do we call you? I've heard that enough. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your...
Somebody get a first and a second before any questions. Is there a motion to confirm Kevin J. Simmons?
Second.
Quickly. All right. Any questions for Chief Simmons?
Nope. Who said that?
Okay. Oh, hold on there.
This isn't a question, it's an observation, because you know, Chief, I was a skeptic, and you have made me a believer, and I really do think we have a great operation, and it is thanks to you. So you have my support.
Thank you. You and I have been through a long journey, haven't we? But what I have to say about you, Alderman, is you kept an open mind. And I knew when I presented at the Eastport Civic Association, and you were standing there at the mic and you were talking about all these good things that OEM has done. First of all, I didn't believe it was you up there saying it. But we've come a long way, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Okay, all those in favour of confirming Kevin J. Simmons as Director of the Office of Emergency Management Department for the City of Annapolis, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. and support the Constitution and laws thereof. And that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality and prejudice, execute the office of Director of the Office of Emergency Management. According to the Constitution and laws of this state, and the Charter and Code of the City of Manhattan. Congratulations. So, Doug Romali will be sworn in on August 26th after Chief Stokes finishes his well-deserved break. I want to give a special thanks to Teresa for putting this together. It was a fantastic process, and I'd like our public safety team to stand up for one more round of applause. Thank you so much. Back to business. The City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar include Journals of Proceedings, CCM 070819 regular meeting minutes, CCM 072219 special meeting minutes. For legislative actions on first reader, 03019 sidewalk signs, 03119 City Council meetings rules of procedure. And on second reader, R3819, peddlers, hawkers, and itinerant merchants, fines. That's the end of the consent calendar.
Are there any objections to any items on the consent calendar? Hearing no objections, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Ms. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is legislative action on first reader, beginning with Ordinance 03219, issuance of general obligation bonds and bond anticipation notes.
Is there a motion to adopt O-32-19 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ms. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Teresa?
Okay. I just want to address the ordinance that you just adopted on first reader.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have the ordinances in the usual format, so this 03219, I presume that's coming to the Finance Committee? I don't have it attached to my...
Ross, I'm sorry, Alderman Arnett, can you speak in the microphone so we can hear you, please?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't have the ordinance in the normal format that shows where to sign. I'm assuming this will be referred to the Finance Committee?
So that was what I was going to address before you just voted on it on second, to move it on first reader. So if you want it to be referred to the Finance Committee, I don't know if you need to undo what you just did. So the reason that 3219 is not referred to the Finances Committee is because under the...
Could you, I mean, I can't hear.
Okay, let's just hold up for a few minutes here.
So the Finance Committee's duties are to review the budget and continuous surveillance of the budget, as well as any amendments to Title VI. The bond ordinance does not in any way modify or amend the budget, and it doesn't amend Title VI. All it does is authorize the city to sell the bonds you already approved in the budget. So if you want the bond ordinance to come to the Finance Committee, you may certainly ask for it to come to the Finance Committee, but we are not required to take it to the Finance Committee under the provisions of the chartering code.
I think for $17 million, we would like it to come to the Finance Committee.
That's fine.
So do we have to undo anything to do that? No? Okay, great. We can do that. All done, Therese?
Yes, all done on 3219.
Okay. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Next item on the agenda is Ordinance 03319, modification of use of unexpended proceeds of certain of the general obligation bonds of the City of Annapolis.
Is there a motion to adopt O-33-19 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
So we have it referred here, Therese, to the Finance Committee. Would you like
Yes,
to
transfers of
elaborate?
bond proceeds are required to go before the Finance Committee.
And do you want to elaborate? Is there more you have to say on that or not? It's on the floor now.
No, we'll address it with the Finance Committee, I think.
Okay.
It's just taking unspent bond proceeds and allowing us to transfer them to projects that are ready to move forward, just like we did earlier this year. So we'll explain that in detail to the Finance Committee and then to the City Council when it's up for public hearing or second reader.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The agenda is completed.
Alderman Savage had some things for good order.
Oh, yeah, I think we amended the agenda to add this. I'd just like to request O2719 and R3619 get referred. He did already? Okay. Good.
Anything else, Rob? No? I'm going to hand it over to Alderman Payon.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we adjourn.
All right. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. Good work. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming down. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.